Okay, so the CHYE monthly small business webinar. It's our mission to support entrepreneurs on their journey towards success in business. Every month we bring you an important webinar on an important topic to grow your business. And this month's topic is a very important topic. You know, a lot of times we get lost in the details of the business, but one of the most important things that is you really have to set the right goals. I could just speak for myself. When you set a goal to begin with, it drives you. And if you have a goal, if you don't have a goal, then you swim in every direction. But setting a goal is an art. You could sometimes make a goal and it's just either it's not realistic, it's not attainable. SMART goals. I don't know if you're going to talk about that today. Famous line. But you're setting those goals. There's an art to it and there's a science to it. And so we're very honored this week. We have coming all the way from sunny South Florida. We have Boruch Hecht, who is a well-known coach. He's a small business coach. He helps businesses to grow, and he's taught classes in the past. He's a very accomplished person, and he has a beautiful presentation today. So I'm gonna, without further ado, I'm gonna go into their background. Boruch will present. He'll set aside some time for Q&A, and you're all in for a treat. So Boruch, thank you so much, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Can everyone hear me? You can just do a thumbs up. Great. Okay, so let's just make sure this presentation is working. Oops, here we go. Okay, it should be working, right? Great. Okay, so as Rabbi Wardy mentioned, I'm going to present on one of my favorite topics, on a topic called OKRs, which stands for Objectives and Key Results. And I'm going to try to give some background and explain how it works, how you can create your own OKRs. But I think the best way to understand it is to do it, to do one or two examples. So hopefully at the end of my presentation, there'll be some volunteers who will either want to work on something that they on their own business, or they want to just come up with some sort of examples. But I think the best way to understand is to really do it together. So hopefully people will be interactive. It just won't be a one-way presentation. Just very briefly about myself, as Rabbi Wardy mentioned, I've worked with many small businesses, lots of non-for-profits for quite some time, going on probably 10 years. Small businesses is anywhere under, I would say, 10 million in revenue, so really small to very, very small to a startup, really just getting going. And as Rabbi Wardy mentioned, one of the biggest maybe pitfalls or challenges small businesses have is that they forget to actually create goals for themselves, which means that they get lost. They themselves get lost, and founders get lost, but more importantly, the teams get lost. And if you're not really driving your team properly, you're probably not really going anywhere. There's a famous line: you're either working in your business, or on your business. As you get going, you start working in your business, your day-to-day operations, you're just making sure things are going. But objectives and key results, which is really the bigger picture, like the strategy, is working on your business. So hopefully I can give you some insight about how to do it. So here's the agenda. We're going to talk about objectives and key results, and we're really going to talk about how to create them. There is an art and there is some science, but I think it's more of an art than a science, in my opinion, in my experience. So without further ado, let's do this. So just starting off, before I jump into the benefits, just some brief history about the OKRs. OKRs is really a goal framework. I already mentioned SMART goals. There's lots of different ones. I specifically decided to use this one 10 years ago because there's a famous venture capitalist called John Deere. He spells his last name D-E-R, E-R. And he was an early investor of Google. And one of the first things he implemented when he sat on the board is he told Larry and Sergey, you guys, how do you guys, what are your goals? How do you create goals? How do you kind of build your business? And they didn't really have a good answer. And he decided to give this, that I have this thing, it's called OKRs, can I teach it to you? And believe it or not, as far as I know, and based on my research, Google still uses. Many tech companies use it. That's one of the reasons I like it a lot. A lot of tech use this specific framework. There's lots of other ones, but this is the one I like. So hopefully you like it too. But by no means is it the only one, the only framework to use to create goals. Goals for your team. Okay, so what are the benefits? Obviously, you can have a motivated team. Improve communication. I think that's one of the biggest challenges as you grow a team is lack of communication. Lots of people are busy doing lots of different work, but if you're not rowing in the same direction, if a boat's rowing in different directions, it's going to go in circles and circles, and you're not really going to achieve big stuff. So obviously, improve communication. And it's going to improve, clarity and commitment. There's many benefits. If anyone wants to shout out and try to chime in a little bit, I will. You can just unmute yourself and talk about other benefits. But those other ones, I think those are the top three at least that come to my mind when I think about what are the benefits of doing this a framework, specifically OKRs. Just really getting everyone on the same page and rowing in the same direction. I think is the main benefit, obviously. Many more as well. All right. So what objectives and key results? So it's called OKRs. I see someone is putting in the chat. I don't know that I'll be able to. Oh, here we go. Helps to prioritize. Yes, absolutely. Someone wrote in. Helps you to prioritize, focus on what's needed most. Absolutely. Thank you, Rachel Ginsburg. I don't know if that's actually okay. That's a good one.
Yes, you pronounced it correctly. Rachel Ginsburg. Okay,
great. I wasn't sure this is someone else using it, and I'm gonna try not to monitor the chat just so I can stay focused on my presentation.
I'll monitor the chat.
Okay, perfect. So if you want to chime in, then whenever you want. So it's just as a side note, by the way, I highly recommend everyone once the presentation is over to just Google OKRs. There's an entire website called, and John Deere wrote a book specifically on OKRs called What Matters. I think it's called What Matters. If you just Google John Deere OKRs, you're going to find there's a ton of resources out there. I'm just trying to give you a small understanding of how it works, but there's a million stuff out there, and lots of coaches use it. So if you're really interested, please do your own research. But it's in the lingo, it's called OKRs, which stands for objectives, obviously, and key results. So you start off with creating an objective, then you have key results, which is the way you measure the objective, and then I added this third little item called priorities, which is not really part of the framework, but I found it helpful when I was implementing with different teams to have priorities. But I'll make more sense in a second. So what are the objectives? Objectives are meant to be, as you can read on the slides, big, audacious goals, stretch goals, inspiring and meaningful. The reason they're supposed to be big is because you want to inspire and encourage your team to do things that are not necessarily, I'm going to use the word realistic, but beyond what the team is currently doing. Meaning, if you're just I don't know, let's just use sales because that's an easy example. If you're using sales, you're doing $100,000 in sales, and your goal is to increase sales. That is a worthwhile goal, but is it an audacious goal? Is it something that's going to be like? Is it going to get the team excited? Is it meaningful? Not necessarily, other than just everyone making more money. So the thought and the idea behind the objectives is that you come up with things that are not necessarily in the current realm, not necessarily do people fully understand what it is, but you work through this process of trying to achieve the greats, going to the moon, but those kind of like very, very stretch goals. I do believe that if you read the book or you do the research, the current CEO of Google prior to doing that, I believe he was in charge of YouTube, and he used OKRs to really make YouTube into what it is today. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly all the history, if it was created by him but it was a very small piece of Google's business, and he used this framework to really get the team on board to create this much bigger, I guess, product that they had at the time. So, and we'll go through some examples. That if no one wants to chime in, I'll come up with some examples. But again, I would say that
So-
maybe the key. Yeah,
One
go ahead.
second, 1 minute. First of all, this is meant to be interactive, and why don't we just ask for somebody here? I see we have Gershon Haft on. I know Gershon is he's not a shy guy. Gershon, are you there?
I'm here.
Yes. Do you want to volunteer and for you and your business? What is your big audacious goal? Is that a no?
You caught me a little bit unprepared right now. I'm sorry. I was listening, but handily.
Right, okay. So I'm just Boruch was talking to you about OKRs and every business should have a big audacious goal. So for you and your business, do you have a big audacious goal?
We do.
Do you want to share it? Are you comfortable sharing it?
Not right now.
No. Okay. Is there anyone now on the webinar right now that would be open to sharing the big audacious goal for their business? Oh, I see Mendel Bergstein. So Mendel, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. I guess it's more general. My goal is to create a design agency, a marketing agency that helps companies tell their stories to their customers. So right now we're focused on healthcare, to help healthcare companies tell their story and share their services to their customers or potential customers. I guess that's the general goal.
Okay. Are you currently, do you currently have clients? So is that to get into the market?
I've been working with nonprofits for a long time.
Okay.
Now moving into the healthcare space. I do have 2 clients in the healthcare space, but it's definitely a big goal. So
Okay, so I think that would constitute a big audacious goal, which is you really you going into a brand new market. You have limited experience. So you have 2 customers.
Yeah, no, it's huge.
Right, so right. So I think so I think that's a good example because it's broad enough, meaning to break into the health. So we can, if you don't mind, we'll if no one else chimes in down the line, we'll use your objective as an example, and we'll go through the actual key results. But the point is that it's supposed to be fairly broad, so that and you'll understand a little bit further down the line why it's supposed to be broad. But I think that is a good example. So big audacious goal for him would be, okay, right now we're working in a nonprofit space. Our big audacious goal is we're going to break into the healthcare market, right? So it's broad enough. What does it even mean? How do we know that we're successful? How do we measure results? Hence the key results. But I think that's a good example.
And it's more than just design. It's also telling their stories, and we'll find other means of telling their story. So it could really grow to many different things.
Okay.
Right now we just signed a contract to do like a website. So that's amazing. It's not like typical sales brochures that we were used to do to something bigger. So that's why my bigger vision.
Okay. So I think that's a great example. I think a new markets is a good example. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just interrupting you, and maybe you're going to talk about this still. But it's a nice goal, but it's very undefined. Does it have to have a number to it? Does it have to be a good goal?
So it's actually a great question, and the answer is no. It's a bit an objective. Objective is meant to be fairly open-ended, and we'll explain in a second. So the way the numbers and the specifics, right, of how we know we're successful in that is the key result, which is a way to measure. So the objective is the what are we trying to get accomplished, and the key results is the how, which is how do we know we were successful. So it's specifically not it's not meant to have any specifics on there yet, if that makes sense.
Okay,
but I think
sounds
that's
good. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that's a good example. So new markets, a new product, a new geography. Those are big goals. You don't necessarily know how you're going to get there, but that's something that the company, the team wants to focus on. Okay, so those are the objectives, which is your what are you trying to get accomplished? Then here's hopefully going to answer the question that Rabbi Wordy had, which is, okay, how do we know we were successful? Which is your key results. So your key results is you further take, right, your objective, which is what I'm trying to accomplish. I'm trying to get into the healthcare market. That was the what, and then the key results is the how. How we can get into it, and how we know we're successful. So what is a good way to create a key result? It's something that is measurable. It's very easy measurable, right? So it's quantitative in nature, and you also have the evidence fairly accessible to you. Meaning, if you're going to say to get X amount, of new customers, but you have no way, to track how many new customers you got in the healthcare, then there would be no way for you to know whether you were successful or not. So it has to be quantitative in nature, but also the evidence that you're trying to use to either decide that you were successful or not is at your fingertips. So you have quantitative, measurable data points that tell you whether you were successful or not.
So you're saying deciding which choosing which factors would be what would be considered a success?
Yeah, so let's take the example. Okay, so let's say we were talking okay, this is my big objective, the what. I'm trying to get into the healthcare market. Okay, I think that's a wonderful objective. Great. How do we know we were successful? So I think you said something which is very important to me, at least. You said, first of all, we don't just we're telling stories. It's not just about marketing. It's not about sales. It's a much broader kind of product offering. So how would we know we were successful? So I think just by saying we got one new client, is that a way to know that we're successful? That can possibly be a key result. Maybe another key result can be we specifically got a new client in the storytelling. We specifically got a new client in the websites. We specifically got a new client in a specific product offering. It can be even further defined. When you say healthcare, it's a pretty broad market. So is it hospitals? Is it old age homes? Is it nursing homes? What specifically are we trying to target? Maybe breaking in is simply getting leads, right? That can also be a big, I'll talk about it in a little bit down the line, but sometimes the objective evolves over time. So it starts off with this breaking into the market, right? And breaking into the market maybe for the first 90 days is, okay, let's generate new leads. Let's do client presentations, and let's, it's not necessarily sales, it's just creating interest for what you're offering. And then maybe 90 days from now, day 91 to and on, it becomes, okay, convert these leads, and so you kind of get to update your objectives and key results. You don't delete them, right? Because you want to know whether you were successful or not in the first 90 days, but you get to update them so that the objectives and key results evolve as you become successful in whatever you're trying to accomplish. Does that answer your question?
Totally. Yeah, no, it totally does. I was afraid you were going to say that financial numbers would be the key, looking at numbers. Oh, you made X amount of sales, that would be the key result. But I don't think it's possible, and I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and so right, because you're not going to go from we're interested in breaking into a market to 90 days from now we sign a client. It's going to be quite a bit of a process. We can even take a step back and say breaking into the market is maybe just for now developing, sales pitches or PowerPoints that we're going to send to different potential clients. It can possibly mean breaking into the market. The first step for you, I think that's something you would have to talk. I don't know if you have a co-founder, but if you don't, then you would think to yourself, okay, how am I breaking into this market? Maybe breaking into the market. Step one is simply going to the conferences and actually meeting people, right? Potential clients, right? You don't even have a booth. You don't have anything. You're just going there. You have a name tag and you're just talking to people and saying, oh, hi, this is me. This is what I do. What do you do? Nice to meet you. Can I eventually, interest you in setting up a meeting? So the easiest way to measure is sales, but right, it's not when you're starting from fresh. You're starting a new product. You're going into a new geographical area. You're not necessarily going to go from zero to a sale. There's going to be quite a bit in between. So it's very important. I think it's a very good point you're making. It's very important, right? Because you don't want to set yourself up for failure. You want to be able to, right, to progress over time. So you want it to be big audacious, but you want it to be also semi-realistic, right? If it's not realistic at all, then you're probably going to fail. Which is, and I'll go into that a little bit more. But so those are the key results. So again, just to kind of, refresh our memory, where the objective is what we're trying to accomplish, and the key result is how we're going to accomplish. within the how, which is we're going to do A, B, C, D, we're going to know whether we were successful or not, because the ABC at the end of 90 days will tell us, did we do this or not? Did we achieve whatever we were trying to achieve? So your how is also your measurable quantitative data points. So that's the how. And this is kind of my little thing that I added, which is when you have a lot, when it's just your, I think it works for yourself as well, but it's specifically when you have larger teams, you can further take your your key results and break them down into action steps, which I like to call weekly action steps, which is okay. If, for example, just let's just go on with your example, your objective, unless someone wants to pipe in, and we can use their example. But let's say, right, one of the key results, let's say we're starting from scratch, so we don't really have any clients, or we're really trying to break into a market that we don't know much about. If one of your key results was develop a presentation, right, a sales deck, a pitch deck for potential clients, you're not going to go from I have nothing to a week later you have something. So to give yourself a little more specific items you have to get done, maybe the first step is, okay, do some research. What is it exactly I want to, what are other people doing? What do I want to put in my pitch deck? You kind of make a list. Maybe, your first, the action steps in week one is, okay, write a list of all the things I want to talk about in my pitch deck. Maybe the next one will be to meet with a copywriter to help you develop copy. Maybe another one would be to work with the designer. I guess if you had your own designer, to work with a designer and figure out how big is my deck, what kind of imagery are we using, what kind of story are we telling. So those are all, I guess, kind of mini steps that get you to, okay, if one of the key results was create an actual PowerPoint, your weekly steps will get you to that, because every week you're doing, A, B, C, D, whatever it is that you're doing to get to getting your key result achieved at the end of the 90 days. When you have large teams and you're doing complex key results, excuse me, and you have bigger projects, and you have lots of people on your team, to keep people accountable every week, my suggestion is, is to have a weekly meeting and really sit down with everyone and say, okay, this week we're trying to accomplish A, B, C, D. Let's say on Monday, on Friday, and at the end of the week, at the beginning of the week, you kind of say, okay, did we get our things done? Did we not? Why didn't we? What were the pitfalls, and kind of work through the kinks, because you're not, right? We all know in business, and the reality is that every time you plan, not everything that you plan is actually going to get achieved. So my experience with getting big objectives done is to keep breaking them down into bit pieces so that you can get it accomplished in a specific time frame. So the priorities are who's getting it accomplished and when are they getting accomplished. I think the when is a very big, important point, to keep ourselves accountable in life. Thank God we have Shabbos, so we know that no matter what, at a specific time you have to stop. But when you have these priorities in place and you kind of use this system, you get to keep your team accountable, because you tell them, okay, this has to get done in week 1 and week 2 in the first 14 days, whatever it is that you're doing. It's very specific, and there's a specific timeline attached to the actual priorities. I think it's kind of self-explanatory, unless people have questions. If you do, please chime in. But I think the priorities seem to be self-explanatory. Mini action steps they do every week to kind of get to your key results. Okay, so the framework, really the way it's supposed to work, is you're supposed to grade yourself to know if you did well or not at the end of the 90 days. Right, so you have 4 quarters in a year, so you're supposed to every quarter you're supposed to go through really this exercise at the end of every quarter. So at the end of in end of December, you're creating your Q1 objectives, and the end of Q1 you're creating your Q2 objectives, and so on. And at the end of, for example, of Q1, you're really grading yourself for how well you did on the actual Q1 OKRs, and then based on that, you're creating new OKRs for Q2. So how do you grade yourself? It's pretty simple. It's just a scale of 1 to 10. and the average, and then you take the average score, which I'll explain in a second. And I think this is, I'm just going to jump to 3 for a second. And 7 is great. The reason 7 is great and not 10 is because if you got a 10, and I'll explain how to get to 10 or how to get to 7, but if you got to a 10, it means that probably your objective was maybe too achievable. It wasn't a really stretch goal. It was a little bit too easy. So you want to kind of like work extremely hard. As you worked so hard and you still only got a 7 or an 8, and that's good because that means that you really got out of your comfort zone. You really made it fairly difficult for you and your team to get there, and yet, despite all the difficulty, right, you still got there. So how do you get your score? Every key result gets scored. So let's say the suggestion is to have 1 objective, obviously, and 3 key results. So let's just give an example. If your key result 1, you got a 5, and a key result 2, you got a 5, right? And a key result 3, you got a 5. You just simply take the average of the 15, right? And 15 divided into 3, and that will give you an overall score of the objective of 5 out of 10, right? So you simply score each key result, and then you take the average of the 3, and that gives you your overall objective score. And again, 7 is great because if you got too high, it probably means that your objective was too easy for the team and for yourself. And if you get a much lower than a 7, if you get like a 4, maybe your objective was much too hard or was not necessarily realistic, and you don't want that because you don't want to discourage your team. So you kind of like, it's an art in the sense you have to come up with something that's achievable yet really difficult to achieve, and it really requires the entire team to row in the same direction to get there. Trying to think if I have anything else to say about that. Is that any questions about this, the scoring?
I guess you're doing internally, right? Like you do it by yourself.
Correct. So if you're working with yourself, then you would do it on your own. In my experience, I was a team leader a lot, or I was a COO, so I would sit with team leaders and help them score. And it's fairly easy to score because, again, the key results they are quantitative in nature, right? So if it's like create a PowerPoint, right? This again to go back to your example. If it's okay, create a slide deck, right? You either did or you didn't, right? It's not like you created, the key results, and there's no gray area on your key results. Either you did it or you didn't do it, right? So if it's like, okay, get 10 leads and you got 7, then you got your 7, right? Because you got 7 out of 10. So your number would be 10 for that specific key result. Sometimes it gets a little more difficult when it's all like so like quantitative in nature, but I highly suggest, even when things are a little bit more difficult, for example, like when you're trying to do like increase customer experience or increase overall customer something, like it's a little bit more difficult to measure. I encourage and help teams to really define it as much as possible and put some sort of quantitative number to it, so that they can really score themselves at the end. Because if you can't score yourself, it's kind of right. What's the point? You don't know if you did well or not. You don't know how to go from there. So that's kind of about the scoring. I think I'll probably come all together once we do an example. All right, I guess here are the examples. So we can use your objective, or if someone else wants us to help us out. So really, there's no right or wrong, objective. I don't think people shouldn't be shy. Please chime in, because I think this is probably the best way to understand it. And the more you do it, the more it becomes kind of second nature. So if you're comfortable, we can do yours and kind of work through it together. If someone else wants to.
Honestly, this is very helpful because I just launched like a month ago, and I was like playing around a lot, and this is so helpful. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So if you want, I mean, I don't hear anyone else piping in, so I think you get the benefit of just let's working through an actual OKR from scratch. So let's take one step back. So let's say we're meeting and you're like, okay, great. I want to break into this new market. And you're like, okay, healthcare is the market I want to break into. And I was okay, I don't know anything, you tell me about your business. So just give me like a 60-second elevator pitch. What is it that you do? You not that you're pitching me to do the healthcare business, but like for me to understand exactly what is it that you're offering. So you have websites, but give me a 60-second or 30-second, whatever's comfortable for you. What is it that you offer? I guess. Yeah. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
okay,
I am putting you
I'll
on the
just,
spot. Yeah.
I'll do the best I can, although this is not my niche. So, we're a design
Selling
agency.
kids,
right?
that's
I'm sorry?
that's the business, right? You better get comfortable selling.
I know,
because
I'm learning. Trust me, this is part of this is
Okay.
probably my objective. Key result number one. We're a design agent. Like I'm a designer, and thank God over the past year we've grown. One of some people taught me. We design primarily design company, but we bring in like writers and like developers when needed to offer design services for. So I was for nonprofits primarily, and then now moving into the healthcare space to offer. We're going to focus on sales. The idea is to offer, the goal is to offer sales, to design and create a beautiful material for their sales teams. Like, I mean, help them present themselves to customers. They'll probably. Was that clear? Or,
Yeah,
Why
no,
don't
that's,
you why don't you come to forward whatever he has?
I'm sorry.
Maybe talking to someone else.
No, he's not. Oh. Who works there?
I think somebody is supposed to be on mute and they're not. All right, go ahead, just continue. Go.
Yeah, I think you can meet anyone, Robbie Wardy. So, and then you can unmute yourself later on.
Yeah.
So create sales materials, right? For the salespeople that are selling, right? So I guess for healthcare.
For their sales teams, yeah. More than
The
just
sales teams.
marketing design, but more focus on their sales more than marketing. I mean, you're not creating like necessarily. We would obviously create ads for the companies as well, but
right.
My pitch right now is to help them create sales brochures. Like
so let's take the healthcare example for a second. So healthcare is a really broad, right, industry. You would have to probably take right. So within healthcare, who are you targeting right now?
Yeah, so it's nursing homes, home care companies, rehab, and assisted living. Those are my four. Like, that's where I'm focused. Yeah, sorry,
okay.
I'm learning how to do a pitch.
No, that's good. That's good. But that's part of the process. That's kind of why you have a framework, so you can kind of further define what it is that you're trying to achieve. Because 90 days from now, I'm like, okay, how'd you do? If you didn't really have the right tools, right? No, you can't be held responsible.
Exactly.
You know, you can, but it'd be fairly difficult to help keep yourself accountable if you don't really have the right tools. Okay, so let's pick one. The nursing homes, you said home living. You said a few other ones, but let's pick one. I think it'll be.
Yeah, so nursing homes, because the home care already involved, and I'm trying to like.
Okay, so let's do nursing homes. So nursing homes, I don't know enough about it. So in nursing homes, who's a salesperson in nursing home? Is the person trying to get people to live in the home?
It's a little complex. Honestly, a lot of these companies are like bigger corporations.
Mm-hmm.
Their marketing, honestly, they're very behind for some reason.
Right.
I feel like that they're older businesses that haven't really invested in creating material that is like talks to this generation.
Right. But who would be the salesperson within a nursing home? Is there someone who has a position called the salesperson?
I'll be completely honest, and I've tried reaching out. I'm trying to reach out to the corporations, but it's hard to get into there. So I'm like this past week, I was trying to reach out to this like the actual homes, the nursing homes. Basically, the nursing homes, like the companies could have like 30 homes, for example, right?
Right.
So,
right.
And a lot of the marketing comes from corporate. So I was trying to reach out to the higher, but it's harder. So this past week I was trying to reach out to the actual homes and see if I could get in there and try to work my way up.
So I'm just going to use my sense, and I'm going to assume, I may be wrong, but I'm going to assume that the salesperson in a nursing home is either the director themselves, when I guess a family says, oh, I have a parent that I want trying to, I guess, possibly put in your home. They meet with this someone I'm going to assume that it's just the director of the home, or I don't think there's like someone called the salesperson of the home.
So they
It's
were
probably
connecting
like,
with the director of sales and marketing. So I don't know exactly. Again, I'm
okay,
still new at this, and I'm
right.
still trying
But
to.
let's assume that it's going to be the director of the home, because if I was the corporation running with these 30 homes, I would keep the director of the actual individual home responsible to make sure that my beds are full or the 90% of capacity. I'm not sure what the industry average is, but that would be the person that would ultimately be responsible to ensure that, right? One, there's no issues, but more importantly, two, that the beds are actually full. Let's assume the director, in our case, right, is a salesperson. So we're creating. So what we're telling this director is, hey, you have outdated, I guess, materials to attract new clients and fill your beds. So we're going to create new branding, new storytelling, a bunch of new materials so you can present it properly. So when a family comes and says, hey, we want to put a parent possibly in your home, you first of all, you have the right things to say to that person, right? It's not necessarily, I mean, when you say material, sometimes it's even giving them the right verbiage. You know what I'm saying? I don't know who runs these homes, but sometimes it can be, I don't know, PhD, blah, 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 who's a great clinician, but not necessarily a great salesperson. And he's not necessarily
not telling the story properly.
He's not telling the story properly. He's not really explaining why someone should come to this home versus another home. And I guess the family doesn't end up putting their parent there because, right. So you know, maybe that's part of the deliverables, giving the director the right, you know, vocabulary and speech, for lack of a better word. Okay, so we're going to this director. I'm creating this. Okay, so let's go back to the objective. If you were meeting with me, one of my suggestions would be, okay, so now we've further defined it. For the objective is to break into the nursing home, right? Industry specifically, even though we have 3 other, right, I guess sub industries within healthcare, but right now let's just focus on this because it would be, you know, yeah, I'm sure you've heard the boiling the ocean, right? You can't boil the ocean, or you got to kind of like pick something small and then kind of like work your way out. So yeah, okay, it's fine. So we're going to do a nursing home, specifically directors. So I think the objective, and I would suggest, and again, you don't have to keep it, but my suggestion would be, okay, so I'm thinking in my head if I would want to use the word director. Is it again too specific? Because we may want to use director specific in accused. I think I would probably say no. So it would be maybe making inroads in the nursing home industry. It sounds very broad, and the reason why it sounds broad is because you want to have kind of a lot of leeway to play around with how you create, right, your key result. If it's too specific, then it's going to be kind of too narrow. So let's and I think it's more of an art than an actual science. But let's just go with this for a second and see if it takes us, you know, where we need to go, right? So okay, so breaking into the nursing home industry, and how do we know that we were successful in that? Right now, you said you had 2, but let's just say that we have 0, right? So okay, so how do we even breaking into the nursing home industry, right? It sounds more complex, right? Than maybe not more complex, but it sounds like you really have to understand, right? The whole structure, right? Some places have like they're just running 1 home, some places are running 30 homes. So how do we break in? Because the ultimately is to create, right, these sales, right, materials, and right that this director or corporation is buying to give directors. Maybe this is a suggestion on how big your company is, but maybe sometimes smaller companies are a better starting point. You know, for smaller companies, let's say for a corporation, I mean, there's massive corporations out there, right? And I wouldn't discourage you, but like, would like a corporation has 100 homes, like, you know, hire a very small marketing team to help them out? Maybe, maybe not.
No, that's true.
Yeah, maybe or maybe not, but like, you know, I think you have to, for sure, in marketing, at least in my experience, a lot of it is credibility, right? You have to what's your track record? So it's easier to create a track record with someone who's going to give you a shot versus a massive corporation.
For sure.
You're going to say, well, how many copywriters do you have on staff? You're going to say, I have, you know, 2 or 3. They're going to say, well, we have 100 homes. Like, how can you handle such kind of business, right? So let's say that it's a nursing home business. Okay, so we're going really after maybe smaller kind of, I guess, operators, right? Let's make up a number. It's going to be the people who operate between 1 and 10 homes, right? Which is not necessarily small, because a home can be anywhere between 25 to 200 beds or more. So right, there is right? They're making real revenue in these companies. Okay, so maybe one key result would be we don't really have. I mean, before we can even sell anything, we probably have to create leads, right? Right.
Someone put a post in the chat, networking with companies in the industry.
Yeah. So that would be a great key result. So networking with say that again.
Networking with other companies that serve the industry.
Yeah. So that would be and within this key result, I would specifically say, okay, networking. But how do you know that you were successful? Is networking meaning what? With networking with one company, then networking. We're like, well, how do you further? How do you that we know we were successful? Because it's almost like a little bit too broad. There's no way for us to know. So if let's say that was one of the key results, you were saying, yeah, I think that's a great key result for me. I want that's one of the ways for me to break into that industry. I would say specifically networking with X amounts, rates of companies within the industry. Or if you felt maybe that like, okay, who's kind of like similar to what I'm trying to perform, and I'm not really doing any medical services, right? You know, you like pharmacies or other providers that are more in the medical space and don't want necessarily be the right fit for you. So maybe other companies that provide something similar to what you're doing, you know, maybe, I don't know, signage companies or like website companies or
See, not necessarily sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
No, see, not necessarily other like nursing homes. That's like, but more
No,
like the general public, people that are servicing them.
I think so. I mean, unless I misunderstood the suggestion, but I think it would be. I think that's a good suggestion. Some networking with, I don't know, the people that sell phone systems, right? To the director. You know, someone who's not necessarily in the medical space, because I feel like medical space is very specific and very regulated. Someone who's coming and, I don't know, selling, you know, I don't know, dentistry, whatever they're doing. It's a little bit more specific, you know, in the sense that like they have a lot of. They're not necessarily selling their services. It's more like, okay, like they have a certain track record and credibility, and they have a little right licenses for that. They're not really a license, right, to provide sales pitches for the director. So I think that would be a good key result. Is okay. So how do we know we're successful in breaking into the small nursing home business? So one is networking with X amounts, right? X would be a number that you feel comfortable putting of companies. It can be you can even write specifics on networking with 10 providers, and then you would further define the provider, you know, computer programming providers, or I don't know, something that's sort of similar to you, so that you can understand how they broke in and then kind of give you, right, an idea of like how you can break in. You know what I'm saying? Because like if I'm like, sure, I'll help you, but hey, I'm selling gardening, you know, to nursing homes. Maybe my approach to the director is more like, well, the guy knows he needs to cut his grass. So the sales pitch is very different than you saying, hey, your story is not being told properly. You can have 90%, 100% occupancy. I think what you're lacking is a storytelling. Let me give you the right tools and verbiage to get there. So someone who kind of like is providing something similar. It may not be, maybe you're not going to find the exact same provider, but something fairly similar, so that you can help you break in. So I think so that would be a great key result. Another great key result.
Can I give a suggestion?
So go ahead.
That's
what I mean, by the way. That's what I mean. As more of an art than a science, because as you talk through it, you kind of you start formulating in your head.
I get it.
Yeah, like what is it
saying.
that I'm trying to accomplish, and how am I even getting there? The more you talk about it with a partner or someone else, the more it kind of like it makes sense on paper eventually.
For sure.
Because you have to get it done. All right, at the end of 90 days, like, did I do this or not? Yeah.
So I know one objective is making inroads into the industry, I guess, right? That would say the next 3 months. It's a key result of making connections with other companies that do similar service the industry. And key result too could be reaching out to a few different, let's say, not, I don't know, owners, but people that are involved in the industry, like people that actually own homes or are managing homes, and not try to sell my services, but rather try to understand, like set up a time to speak to them to understand the industry as a whole, because again, it's new. So, and try to see if I could be of service to them, not trying to sell my services, but try to see, like, listen to them, hear the struggles they're having, and then be of service, see if there's any way I could like add to them without trying to sell my services. I just felt like the past few weeks I had this like goal of trying to sell, and I wasn't getting anywhere. and I don't think it's realistic. I really like the fact that what you said, that it's not about selling at first. It's really just making connections and understanding the industry. So I think that's could be a key result also. Just like
I
trying to
think-
be a service to like the industry, like at like yeah, like to
No, I think that
to someone and try to like share what I have, the knowledge I know with them, and try to see if I could help them in any way without selling.
right, because I think that's a great key result, and I would highly suggest you do that. One of the easiest ways to sell is if you tell me, "Hey, Baruch, my problem is A, B, C, D," and I'm like, "Oh, that's your problem? Great, I have a perfect solution. Here's a
Yeah.
solution for A, B, C, D." But if you're like, you don't even know me and you don't know what my challenges are, and you're like, "Hey, I got this great solution, but what is my problem that you're trying to solve before you're selling me? I like you as a person. I think you have a great product, but if I'm not, my problem is not storytelling. It's you selling me storytelling,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
We're not. There's not going to be.
No,
There's
no,
not going to be a marriage at the end because what you're selling is not what I'm looking for. So I think that's in prior classes and one like people minimize the research that is required when you break into an industry is like 100%. Understand who the client is, who's his director, what are his challenges every day, what does he go through, and then you're like, oh, okay, this is what you're actually going through. Here's a possible solution. By the way, I happen to offer this as well. So I think that's one of the best ways, by the way, just as a side note, if people are looking to get jobs, one of the best ways to break into like corporate America is not to say, hey, do you have a job for me? It's to say, hey, can you do an informational interview with me? Can you tell me about your company? What is the culture about? And that kind of like breaks the walls where like, and then eventually you can be like, yeah, go ahead. Sure, I don't know if you were.
What
But
happened?
that would be.
What's the matter?
I don't know. I wasn't sure if you were trying to say something.
No. So I wasn't saying anything.
Okay. So I think that's another great key result is we're having conversations, an even better meeting one-on-one with X amount of people who specifically run, 1 to 20 or whatever the number is of nursing homes. And what could be a possible 3? I mean, I can come up with one, but let's throw it out to the group because I'm sure everyone over here is trying to help you. So what's the possible? If his overall objective is, let's just remind everyone, overall objective is to break into the nursing home industry. So how is he doing that? Number one, he's networking with similar providers who provide services, not necessarily marketing services, but services that are similar to his to nursing homes. His second key is, and there would be a number obviously attached to that. The second key result would be to have conversations and or meet one-on-one with actual operators of homes, so directors, or anyone who's actually like the head of the home, to understand what their struggles are, and from there, eventually get into a sales pitch. What can possibly be a third key result? This is a question to the group for this overall objective. So how do we know that he was successful? There's no right or wrong answer, by the way, guys. This is just like this is normally what happens when you do these meetings. By the way, these OKR meetings, like it's a big brainstorming session. But when you leave the meeting, we have objective, key result 1, key result 2, key result 3. Here are the team members that are doing it. Here's the priorities for the next 90 days. Here's how we're going to break it down, and everyone leaves the meeting knowing what they have to do next.
Somebody just posted in the chat, send X number of proposals to potential clients.
Okay.
I think that's a little too fast, though. Tell me if I'm wrong, because I really don't know. Like, I mean, based on like what you were saying, that takes a few months to just break into the industry. I would love to send proposals to companies, but I don't know if I'm holding there yet. As much as I thought it would be, but it's not realistic. I just don't see it being realistic.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think right now he's more in like in the understanding the industry and kind of breaking in and trying to create some sort of credibility for himself and talking to people and saying, this is what I did in the nonprofit, and I think I could translate my success in the nonprofit in a nursing home. So I think that this probably, I would say maybe like the actual sales pitches would be maybe in let's say this was a Q1, I would maybe do that in Q2, like once we have a little bit of interest and you kind of like you already kind of know who to talk to. What else can be a possible key result if we're more like in the I guess, in the research stages, trying to understand what the challenges are and how can we position ourselves best to actually get positive responses from people who can use his service. So
I could tell you something I've been doing, but I love hearing the advice. I've been, this might be a waste of time, and everyone tells me it's a waste of time.
So yeah, I mean, I don't mean to cut you off, but I you know, like, success is built on lots of failures. I don't think it's a waste of time. I think that, like, every failure you have is a step closer to success.
Sure.
So
Sorry,
there's no failure in life.
That's
Yeah.
why I stopped. I was connected to healthcare, like people in healthcare on LinkedIn, and just making a connection with them. And then after they connected, I was sending them a text saying, "Hey, I just want to introduce myself." And a nice amount of people responded. I just introduced myself, saying what I'm offering, and not trying to sell anything. Many people said, "Oh, thank you for connecting," and then some people said, "Oh, I'm not interested now." I wasn't even trying to sell anything. It just I guess they took it as a sales pitch. But yeah, so that's another, I guess, key result. I think.
So I mean, I mean, and you could tell me. I mean, I may be wrong, but here's a possible one that comes to mind. Maybe it would be, maybe this is a Q2, but let's just go with it for a second. Maybe it is doing a small project for free. So
That's
kind of do like kind of writing like sort of like a white paper. So like, okay, you find like a very small operator with maybe 20 beds or something, and you kind of like test out, you know, your I guess your theory or whatever it is like trying to sell, and say, okay, because I think once you get to selling, one of the first things anyone's going to ask you is, who'd you work with, what kind of success rates do you have, and if I have success rates in a nonprofit,
it's not going to help. Yeah.
Has it? I don't know if it doesn't help, but it has to translate to the nursing home. It's a little bit, you know. So I think at some point you're going to have to either get someone's going to give you a shot, and he's going to pay you for it, and you're going to make money or break even or whatever, or you're not going to get there right away, and maybe you're going to have to basically do a little free work.
It's to do it. I offered it to someone that's like administrator in a nursing home, and it was like, "Oh, my company is like, they're too crazy to deal with. Like, so don't bother working with them."
Guys, I'm sorry for interrupting. You know, because it's coming up on 3:00. Maybe we could like run through to the end of the presentation, and then afterwards Q&A. You could, we could run for as long as you want. I don't want to hold everybody.
So this is basically the end of the presentation. So this was basically
What happened to the score? You said something about scoring and saying.
So here's the scoring. So let's just pick a third key result, so this way we can actually go through the scoring. So let's say the third key result was to find a client and do a white paper in the first 90 days. Okay, so for key result 1 was basically network with other service providers. Right, let's just assume that you did. The number was 10, you networked with 8, so we have an 8. The next key result was to get one-on-one / phone calls with directors. Let's again use the number 10, and you had 5. So right now we're up to 13, 8 plus, right?
Yeah.
8 plus, right? So that's 13. And then let's just say the white paper, right? Either you did the white paper or you didn't. Let's say you got a 0 because you didn't, right? You didn't. No one took you onto the offer. So essentially, you would have. Right, you would score yourself as, okay, I got 5 out of 10. Then the next one was 8 out of 10, and the next one was 0 out of 10. So you simply have a 13, and your 13, right, divided into 3 would be 4.3, right? So it's possible that your objective was maybe too stretched, or maybe key results weren't defined enough, or maybe the third one was right because you got a 0 out of 10, so I really dropped down your score. Maybe that was the wrong key result. That's why. When I was thinking about it, I was like, maybe that's a Q2 because maybe it's not there yet. But that's kind of how you would score yourself. So you basically take each key result, put some sort of number, right? How much as 0 out of 10, and you simply take the totality of your key results and divide it into 3, and that's your overall key results. So that's the end of the presentation. If anyone has specific questions,
then you review how often. Like, in other words, when do you look at these again?
So objectives and key results are meant to be created every 90 days. Every 90 days, you're creating a new objective and key results for the next 90 days. So in Q1, at the beginning of Q1, right, you would create these OKRs. At the end of the quarter, you would score yourself, and then based on how well you did and what happened, you would essentially create your Q2 OKRs. So every quarter you're doing them. So 4 times a year essentially is how often you do that more often. But I think the 90 is kind of the accepted.
And sales
accepted
teams
timeframe.
use these like to drive sales. Is this also for that, or it's just
I'd say everyone uses. Yeah, everyone uses it for anything. I mean, you can use it even for your personal life. If you're trying to lose weight, you can do an OKR for yourself, and So yeah, sales strategy, marketing. I would say most big tech or most tech period use some sort of framework. To my knowledge, the OKRs is probably the most used framework out there. The SMART goals is a bunch of other stuff. KPIs, there's a bunch of acronyms. I've been using this for approximately 10 years. I've seen great success. Again, if it's developed properly, if the team understands what you're trying to accomplish, if everyone has a defined mission and defined, piece of what they're trying, of what they have to do to get these OKRs done. And I would say, very importantly, the specific timelines as to when things have to get done. And if you're doing it properly, maybe the first 3 quarters is kind of difficult because it's a new system in place. But as you do it, Q1, Q2, Q3, year 1, 2, 3, the team gets into this. I guess they get into the motion of doing it, and then people see great results.
got it? Okay, thank you very much. This was clear, simple, and very direct. So if people have questions now or Mendel, you want to continue with Mendel, feel free at this point. We'll open up, and we could continue in that way.
Yes, I put my information. If anyone has questions or wants to reach out or wants to just get this PowerPoint, I'm happy to share it with you. I can hang out if Mendel wants to talk more. If someone else has questions, I'm happy to give a couple more minutes of my time. So everything is fair game. I didn't read the chat, so I don't know if there's anything specific in the chat. Any questions? It was more people trying to chime in.
I have a suggestion for Mendel.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the nursing home market is a mafia. It's a very hard market to break into. Not to discourage you, but it is a very hard market. The way to get in is you need to get somebody who's servicing that industry, who's friendly with any of the directors or owners, to get you into the office of the director. One way maybe to do it as a suggestion is maybe offer this person, this connection who's going to provide him some of your marketing services sort of for free, so that way there is something in it for him as well, for him to connect you to the directors of the nursing homes.
Yeah, by the way, Mendel,
I appreciate that.
Thank you for saying that. Mendel, I actually know one person who I think is a director in a nursing home. Message me afterwards. I'll see if I can make an intro for you.
I know it can be hard.
There's a guy. Somebody just joined. Just says yo by phone. I don't know what you were looking to gain from out of the. You want to introduce yourself and talk about what you were looking to learn from the webinar, Mr. Yo. Okay, I guess he wants to be anonymous.
Can I ask you a question?
Boruch,
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
You inspire a team to succeed based on numbers, financials. I mean, it's very good. It's a good metric for owner or the manager. But how do you inspire people to grow based on numbers? Isn't that like, I don't know, that sounds a little like, it's a hard thing for me to understand. I mean, how do you inspire people under you to, like, people that are on a salary to grow because, oh, the company has made X amount of dollars this month?
So I think that's an excellent question. I probably your starting point, maybe the prior question, the prelude question to this would be, how do you hire the right staff, right? So when you're hiring people, you talk about like company culture, like what does that even mean? Like it sounds like like cute little keywords, but as you scale a company, you try to hire the people that. Of course, at the end of the day, everyone's coming to a job because they need a paycheck. That's the reality of life. But to the best of your ability, when you're hiring and scaling a team, you're trying to hire people that are like-minded, right, to you. they want to accomplish whatever that is you're trying to accomplish. Obviously, you're the boss and you're going to make the money. Maybe down the line, they'll make more money as well because there'll be some sort of sharing revenue. But let's take you as an example, right? You're there to make money, to make a living, to hopefully get rich at some point if that's one of your objectives. But really what you're trying to do is you're trying to help companies, right, get better at what they do and grow themselves, right? That's really what you're trying to do at the end of the day. Sure, you want to get paid because you have to make a living and you have to eat every day. But what motivates you, for the most part, what motivates most founders is not that they're just trying to become rich. You're trying to become rich, maybe become, there's lots of ways to become rich. Not making any, I'm not going to make any suggestions because this is being recorded, but there's lots of easy ways to, to get rich. So something more than just money is motivating you. So when you're hiring the right people, you're looking for people who have a similar mindset. I really believe that the nursing home is such an important industry. It helps so many, elderly people. It's so antiquated, and I believe I want to help them, right? So that's a starting point. So let's just kind of keep going with this. Assume that you got the right person and the right people on board. So once you have the people who are trying to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, and they're motivated by the same things that you're motivated, that's kind of how you get people motivated. Sure, we're going to make money, and I'm going to be rich, and you're going to be rich. Maybe I'm going to be richer than you because I own the company. But the underlying of the motivation is not just like, can you help me become rich, right? So I don't know, fortunately, unfortunately, but in the sales, right? So when you're running sales teams, most salespeople are really what's their motivation at the end of the day, right? A real estate agent or a broker. At the end of the day, right? His real motivation is just to make lots of money. So yeah, those guys are right. You have to throw them big bonuses and this and that. But when you're in the service industry, doing do marketing, all that, I do strongly believe, at least in my experience, is that something in addition to right.
Yeah,
the money,
no, I agree. I was just trying to figure out.
It was motivating the person. So you hopefully try to hire the right people who really feel like they sincerely believe that what you're doing, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis is not just I'm pushing sales pitches to the directors so they can fill beds. They sincerely believe that what you're doing is actually helping the industry because maybe people don't know about this great product and they're not getting an appearance in there, or maybe I don't know, they can't afford it, and there's a way for them to get to get their parent in there as well. But there's always more than just money. It's never just about the money. And when you get, that's why like you can do a whole nother webinar about hiring and retaining talent, which is a massive problem, right? It's not simple. Like we had a massive, like in the last few years, people were just jumping around from job to job to job to job. One of the reasons, right, is not just basically because they felt that they can make more money elsewhere, and they honestly felt that like, do I want to wake up 10 years from now and say, okay, I spent 10 years, grinding away in this company. I don't even believe in their mission. I don't even believe in what they're doing. I don't really care about what they're doing. I'm just picking up a paycheck. Like people COVID happened and people started questioning themselves. Like, I'm going to live once in my life. Of course I got to make a living and pay my bills, but what is it that like, I want to get accomplished? Yeah. Like what, who am I and what I'm trying to get accomplished and what I believe in. And people try more and more, companies try very, very hard to spend big money is trying to retain and attract the right talent that really is buying into what they're doing, right? Which is another, you can do a whole other again. Yeah, culture is a big thing. These are not cute words. This is real, real world problems, because when you're running a company that has 10, 20, 30,000 people, which there are lots of companies that have that, these massive companies, they have departments, the entire departments that spend hours and lots of money doing all this stuff, asking questions. Who is it that we are? What do we represent? Who do we want to attract?
The brand.
Exactly. Yeah.
I appreciate that, because I was just trying to understand, how do you tell you, so we have to make $100,000 this month. Come on, is that can inspire them?
But it's not about that, right? If I was, let's say I was in the company, I wouldn't. My first team meeting want to be, hey guys, our goal is to now make more money. Would be like, hey, we believe that we're in this business health industry. We want to help the nursing industry. It happens to be that we're going to help them this way, and we're also going to get paid. But really, what motivates
but that's a
us every
secondary
day,
thing, so to say.
Secondary equal to
For sure, I'm saying, but the way internally, yeah, obviously everyone needs to get paid,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's like the culture.
Exactly.
It's not about the
Yeah, yeah.
culture.
Exactly. It's not about we're just trying to make money. We're about helping people in the real world who have real problems.
Exactly. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. So this was wonderful, Baruch. Thank you very much. A great presentation. And Mendel, thank you
Pleasure.
for volunteering to
I
take-
really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes. And everyone else that's on, thank you for joining. I hope you enjoyed. This was recorded. We'll send out recording of the webinar for you to review. And Baruch Shikoyach again, wishing you tremendous hatzlacha.
Pleasure.
Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
All the
you.
best. Call to.